Have you ever noticed that the most powerful person in the room is rarely the loudest? They don't argue to prove they're right. They don't chase attention. They don't feel the need to explain every move they make. Yet somehow everyone watches them. People listen when they speak. Their presence alone changes the atmosphere. What if I told you that power is almost never about strength, money, or status? Real power is psychological. It's invisible. It lives in your habits, your emotional control, and the way you make people feel without saying much at all. Most people spend their entire lives trying to look powerful. They post their successes. They defend themselves against every criticism. They talk endlessly, hoping someone will finally recognize their value. But in doing so, they unknowingly reveal their weaknesses. Robert Greene has spent decades studying history's greatest leaders, strategists, and influential figures. One lesson appears again and again. Those who crave power rarely keep it, while those who master themselves naturally attract it. Today's video will reveal 8 hidden behaviors that instantly make you appear more powerful. Not through manipulation or force, but through discipline, emotional intelligence, and strategic self-control. As you listen, don't simply ask yourself whether you already practice these behaviors. Ask yourself something far more uncomfortable. Which of these habits have you been ignoring? Because sometimes the smallest change in your behavior creates the biggest shift in how the world sees you. Let's begin with the first behavior. Behavior first. Learn the power of silence. Most people fear silence. The moment a conversation becomes quiet, they rush to fill the gap. They explain themselves too much. They justify every decision. They reveal information nobody asked for. Without realizing it, they give away their power. Silence is uncomfortable only for those who depend on words to feel important. Powerful people understand something different. Silence creates mystery. When people don't know exactly what you're thinking, they begin thinking about you instead. Imagine you're negotiating with someone. You make your offer. Instead of immediately explaining why it's fair, you simply remain quiet. What usually happens? The other person becomes uncomfortable. They begin talking. They reveal information they never intended to share. Sometimes they negotiate against themselves simply because they cannot tolerate the silence. This is not manipulation. It is patience. History is filled with leaders who understood this principle. They didn't dominate every conversation. They observed. They listened. They allowed others to expose their emotions before revealing their own. Because information is power, and silence collects information. Think about your daily life. How often do you answer criticism instantly? How often do you defend yourself before anyone even accuses you? How often do you explain your plans to people who never supported your dreams? Every unnecessary explanation weakens your position. When you constantly seek approval, you silently communicate insecurity. But when you become comfortable with silence, something remarkable happens. People begin respecting your words because they become rare. Imagine 2 people. The first speaks every minute. The second speaks only when something meaningful needs to be said. Whose opinion carries greater weight? The answer is obvious. Scarcity creates value. This applies not only to money, it applies to words. One carefully chosen sentence can have more impact than 1,000 desperate ones. Silence also strengthens emotional control. When someone insults you, your first instinct is to react. You want to defend yourself. You want to prove them wrong. But emotional reactions give your opponent exactly what they want. They now control your emotions. The truly powerful person pauses, not because they are weak, but because they understand that every reaction is a decision, and not every battle deserves their energy. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself that we cannot control what others do, but we can always control how we respond. Robert Greene echoes a similar lesson throughout his work. The person who masters themselves becomes nearly impossible to manipulate. Silence is one of the clearest signs of self-mastery. This doesn't mean becoming cold or distant. It means becoming intentional. Before speaking, ask yourself, does this need to be said? Does this improve the situation? Or am I speaking simply because I'm uncomfortable with the silence? That single question can transform the way people perceive you. Remember, confidence doesn't shout. Confidence doesn't interrupt. Confidence doesn't rush. Confidence waits. And when it finally speaks, people listen. Because powerful people understand a truth that most never discover. The loudest voice may attract attention, but the calmest mind commands respect. In the next part, you'll discover the second hidden behavior, a habit that quietly separates those who are respected from those who are constantly overlooked. Master your emotions before they master you. There is one mistake that quietly destroys more opportunities, relationships, and reputations than almost anything else. It isn't a lack of intelligence. It isn't a lack of talent. It isn't even bad luck. It's emotional impulsiveness. The average person believes power comes from reacting quickly. They think every insult deserves an answer, every disagreement demands a response, every challenge must be met immediately. But history tells a different story. The most influential leaders, generals, entrepreneurs, and strategists rarely allowed their emotions to make decisions for them. They understood one timeless truth. The person who controls your emotions controls your life. Think about it. If one rude comment can ruin your entire day, who is really in control? If one person's opinion changes your mood, your confidence, or your focus, then you've handed them something incredibly valuable, your emotional freedom. Robert Greene often points out that emotional reactions are predictable, and anything predictable can be manipulated. That's exactly why manipulative people provoke others. They don't always attack your body, they attack your emotions. Because the moment you lose emotional control, you lose strategic thinking. Imagine you're in an important meeting. Someone questions your ability in front of everyone. Your heart starts racing, your face grows warm, your mind fills with anger. Most people immediately defend themselves. They speak faster, their voice becomes louder, they interrupt. And without realizing it, they've already lost. Not because they were wrong, but because they became emotional. Now imagine a different response. You pause, you breathe, you maintain eye contact, you allow a few seconds of silence before speaking. Then, in a calm voice, you answer only with facts. No anger, no desperation, no need to prove yourself. Suddenly the entire room notices something. Your confidence. People naturally trust those who remain composed under pressure, because calmness signals strength, panic signals weakness. This doesn't mean you stop feeling emotions. Even the strongest people experience fear. They feel disappointment. They experience anger. The difference is simple. They don't let temporary emotions create permanent decisions. Every emotional storm eventually passes. But decisions made during that storm can stay with you forever. Think about the biggest regrets in your life. How many happened because you reacted too quickly? Maybe you sent a message you couldn't take back. Maybe you ended a relationship out of pride. Maybe you quit too soon. Maybe you spoke words that damaged someone's trust forever. Most regrets are emotional decisions disguised as logical ones. This is why patience is such a powerful weapon. When emotions are high, delay your response. Sleep on it. Walk away. Give your mind time to catch up with your feelings. Powerful people understand that time weakens emotional intensity. What feels unbearable today often feels insignificant tomorrow. There is another hidden benefit to emotional control. It makes you unpredictable. Most people expect immediate reactions. They expect you to become angry. They expect you to defend yourself. They expect you to argue. When you don't, they lose their advantage. They begin questioning themselves instead. Silence and composure force other people to reveal more than they intended. They become uncomfortable. They talk too much. They expose their insecurities, all because you refuse to react. Remember this. Anyone can stay calm when life is easy. The real test comes during conflict. Can you remain respectful when you're disrespected? Can you stay focused when others panic? Can you think clearly while everyone else is emotional? That is where true power is born. Robert Greene reminds us that people admire emotional discipline because it is rare. Most individuals are controlled by their moods. One compliment makes them overconfident. One criticism destroys their confidence. One failure convinces them to quit. Powerful people refuse to live that way. Their identity doesn't change because of temporary circumstances. They know that storms pass, opinions change, failure teaches, time heals, but emotional decisions often leave permanent scars. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, don't give them the satisfaction. Pause, observe, smile if necessary, then choose your response instead of surrendering your reaction. Because in the end, power isn't about defeating other people. It's about refusing to let other people defeat your peace of mind. And once you master your emotions, very few people will ever be able to control you again. In part 3, we'll uncover the third hidden behavior, a habit that instantly earns respect without demanding attention. Stop seeking validation. Let your results speak. One of the fastest ways to lose power is surprisingly simple. It's not failure, it's not rejection, or it's not making mistakes, it's needing everyone to approve of you. Most people spend their lives chasing validation without even realizing it. They post their achievements hoping for praise. They constantly ask others if they're making the right decision, or they explain every goal before they've even taken the first step. And when they don't receive the reaction they expected, their motivation disappears. Why? Because their confidence was never built from within. It was borrowed from other people. Robert Greene observed something fascinating throughout history. The most influential people rarely announced their ambitions. They worked quietly. They improved relentlessly. And when success finally arrived, the world noticed without being invited. Think about a mountain. Does it tell everyone how tall it is? Does the ocean remind people how deep it is? No. Their presence speaks for itself. Real power works the same way. The moment you constantly tell people how capable you are, they begin questioning whether you truly believe it yourself. Because confidence doesn't advertise. Confidence exists. Imagine two individuals. The first walks into every room talking about their intelligence, their plans, their potential, and everything they're going to achieve. The second says very little. They listen more than they speak. They quietly focus on their work. Months later, while the first person is still talking, the second person has already achieved the goal. Who earns genuine respect? The answer is obvious. People trust evidence, not promises. This is why powerful people become obsessed with execution instead of explanation. They don't waste energy convincing others. They invest that energy into becoming undeniable. Many dreams die because they're shared too early. The moment people praise your idea, your brain receives a small reward. It feels like progress. But nothing has actually been accomplished. You confuse attention with achievement. Eventually, motivation fades because talking replaced doing. That's why some of the most successful people protect their goals. Not because they're secretive, but because they understand that unfinished work needs focus, not applause. There will always be people who doubt you. Some will laugh at your ambitions. Others will tell you it's impossible. Some won't support you simply because your growth reminds them of their own excuses. Don't argue with them. Don't try to change their minds. Success has always been the strongest response. Imagine planting a seed. Every single day, you dig it up just to check if it's growing. What happens? You destroy it. Goals work the same way. Constantly seeking approval interrupts your progress. Instead, protect your vision. Water it with discipline. Feed it with consistent action. Then let time reveal the results. There is another hidden danger in validation. It gives strangers control over your happiness. If they praise you, you feel confident. If they criticize you, you begin doubting yourself. Now your emotions belong to everyone except you. That is not freedom, that is dependence. Power begins the moment your self-worth stops depending on applause. When you know your value, you don't need to announce it. You don't need to compete for attention. You don't need to win every argument because your identity is no longer built on opinions. It's built on character. History remembers people for what they accomplished, not for how loudly they spoke about what they planned to accomplish. Robert Greene repeatedly emphasizes that mystery creates influence. The less people know about your next move, the harder you are to predict, the harder you are to stop. So instead of telling everyone your strategy, build it. Instead of explaining your discipline, practice it. Instead of asking whether you're good enough, become so skilled that the question disappears. Remember this, the tree doesn't make noise while it's growing, but when it finally bears fruit, everyone notices. Your life should follow the same principle. Work quietly, improve daily, let consistency become your reputation, and let your results introduce you long before your words ever do. Because in the end, powerful people don't chase recognition. They become so valuable that recognition eventually chases them. In part 4, you'll discover the fourth hidden behavior, the quiet discipline that makes people naturally respect and trust your presence without you ever asking for it. Become unpredictable. Never reveal every move. There is a reason the greatest strategists in history rarely showed all of their intentions. It wasn't because they were dishonest. It wasn't because they feared competition. It was because they understood one timeless principle. The more predictable you become, the easier you are to control. Most people unknowingly reveal everything about themselves. They tell everyone their next goal. They announce every opportunity. They explain every decision before it even happens. They wear their emotions on their faces, and then they wonder why people interfere with their progress. Here's the truth. Not everyone who smiles at you wants to see you succeed. Some people are curious. Some are supportive. But others are simply collecting information they may one day use against you. Robert Greene often reminds us that mystery creates influence. When people cannot fully predict your next move, they pay closer attention. Your presence becomes more intriguing. Your actions carry greater weight. Think about a game of chess. If your opponent knew every move you were about to make, how long would the game last? Probably only a few minutes. Life works the same way. The more people understand your strategy, the easier it becomes for them to block it. This doesn't mean living in fear. It means learning the difference between openness and oversharing. Many people mistake constant transparency for honesty. But wisdom knows that not every thought belongs in public. Not every dream needs an audience. Not every victory requires an announcement. Imagine two entrepreneurs. The first tells everyone about a business idea before building anything. Friends praise the idea. Some criticize it. Others secretly copy it. Months later, nothing has been created. The second entrepreneur stays quiet. They spend months learning, testing, failing, improving. Then one day, while everyone else is still talking, their business launches. People suddenly ask, "When did this happen?" The answer is simple. While everyone else was speaking, they were working. Power often grows in silence. There's another reason unpredictability is powerful. It protects your peace. The more details you share about your life, the more opinions you invite. People begin telling you what you should do, how you should think, what risks you should avoid. Without realizing it, your vision becomes crowded by other people's fears. Many dreams don't fail because they were impossible. They fail because they were exposed too early. A seed grows best beneath the soil, not under constant inspection. Your goals deserve the same protection. Keep them close until they become strong enough to stand on their own. This also applies to your emotions. If every frustration appears on your face, if every disappointment changes your mood, people quickly learn how to influence you. They discover your emotional buttons. And once they know those buttons, they know exactly how to push them. But when you remain calm, measured, and emotionally consistent, you become difficult to read. Not cold, not distant, simply composed. People begin wondering what you're thinking. And in that uncertainty, your influence grows. Notice how respected leaders often reveal only what is necessary. They don't speak carelessly. They don't promise more than they can deliver. They allow actions to explain what words never could. That discipline earns trust, because people know that when they finally speak, it matters. There is a quiet confidence in those who don't need everyone to know their plans. They understand that approval is temporary. Results are permanent. The strongest oak tree didn't become strong because everyone watched it grow. It became strong because it survived thousands of silent days no one noticed. Your personal growth should look the same. Work while others are distracted. Learn while others are complaining. Improve while others are seeking attention. Then let your success surprise the world. Remember, mystery isn't about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about protecting what matters until the right moment arrives. Not every chapter of your life belongs on display. Not every battle needs spectators. Sometimes the greatest move is the one nobody saw coming, because true power doesn't announce itself. It reveals itself through perfectly timed action. And when people finally see the results, they'll wonder how you did it. The answer will be simple. While everyone else was busy explaining their future, you were quietly building yours. In part 5, you'll discover the 5th hidden behavior, why learning to walk away from people, opportunities, and situations that no longer serve you is one of the greatest displays of power. Master the power of walking away. One of the greatest illusions people believe is this: power belongs to the person who holds on the longest. But history tells a different story. True power often belongs to the person who knows exactly when to walk away. Most people stay where they are no longer respected. They remain in one-sided friendships. They chase relationships that constantly reject them. They tolerate toxic workplaces because they're afraid of uncertainty. They continue arguing with people who have already decided not to understand them. Why? Because walking away feels like losing. But in reality, sometimes staying is the real defeat. Robert Greene teaches that dependence is one of the greatest weaknesses a person can develop. The moment your happiness depends on someone else's approval, the moment your peace depends on another person's behavior, the moment your confidence depends on external validation, you have quietly surrendered your power. Think about nature for a moment. A river never argues with a rock. It doesn't waste its energy trying to convince the obstacle to move. Instead, it changes direction. It keeps flowing, and eventually, it reaches the ocean anyway. That is power. Power is not stubbornness. Power is adaptability. Imagine two people after being disrespected. The first spends weeks trying to explain themselves. They send long messages. They replay conversations. They beg for understanding. Every day they become more emotionally exhausted. The second person notices the same disrespect. They don't argue. They don't seek revenge. They simply leave, quietly, without drama, without announcing it, without needing the last word. Months later, one person is still trapped in the past. The other has already built a better future. Who was truly powerful? The answer isn't difficult. Walking away is not weakness. It is self-respect in action. Many people confuse attachment with love. They believe that holding on proves loyalty. But loyalty without respect becomes suffering. If someone constantly drains your peace, if every interaction leaves you emotionally exhausted, if you're the only one making an effort, you're not preserving a relationship, you're sacrificing yourself. Powerful people understand something many never learn. Every yes to the wrong person is a no to your own future. Every hour spent chasing someone who ignores you is an hour stolen from becoming the person you're capable of becoming. This principle extends far beyond relationships. It applies to habits, comfort zones, excuses, old identities. Sometimes the version of yourself that once protected you becomes the very thing preventing your growth. You cannot become powerful while clinging to everything familiar. Our growth always requires letting go. Consider an eagle. When it flies, it doesn't carry unnecessary weight. Even a small burden limits its ability to rise. Your mind works the same way. Resentment is weight. Regret is weight. The need to prove yourself is weight. The fear of being alone is weight. And the heavier you become, the harder it is to reach new heights. Robert Greene often emphasizes the importance of emotional independence, not because people don't matter, but because your identity should never be controlled by another person's choices. If someone decides to leave, let them. If someone refuses to see your value, don't spend your life trying to convince them. Your worth does not decrease because someone failed to recognize it. One of the strongest habits you can develop is asking yourself a simple question. Is this situation helping me grow or simply keeping me comfortable? The answer may change your life. Many opportunities appear only after you release what no longer belongs in your future. A closed hand cannot receive something new. It is already full. Likewise, a mind filled with old pain has little room for new possibilities. There is another quiet strength in walking away. It teaches people how to treat you. When you tolerate constant disrespect, you silently give permission for it to continue, but when you calmly remove yourself from unhealthy situations, without anger, without revenge, without bitterness, you communicate something far more powerful than words ever could. You communicate standards, and people respect standards, not because they're afraid of losing you, but because they recognize that your peace is not for sale. Remember this, every chapter in your life has a purpose. Some people arrive to teach you, some arrive to challenge you, some arrive to inspire you, and some arrive simply to remind you what you should never accept again. Don't confuse temporary people with permanent destinations. Not everyone is meant to walk beside you forever. The strongest trees lose their leaves every season, not because they're dying, but because they understand that letting go is part of becoming stronger. Your life follows the same rhythm. Sometimes, the most powerful decision you'll ever make isn't chasing harder. It isn't speaking louder. It isn't proving yourself. It's quietly turning around, walking away, and refusing to trade your inner peace for anyone's approval. Because the moment you stop chasing what continually runs from you, you create space for what is truly meant to find you. In part 6, you'll discover the sixth hidden behavior, the discipline that makes people trust, admire, and follow you naturally without you ever demanding their attention. Become unshakably disciplined. Do what others won't. There is one habit that quietly separates ordinary people from extraordinary ones. It isn't talent, it isn't luck, it isn't intelligence, it's discipline. Most people admire success. Very few admire the routine that creates it. They celebrate the victory, but they ignore the thousands of invisible decisions that made the victory possible. Robert Greene often emphasizes that mastery is never an accident. It is earned through repetition, through patience, through doing the right thing long after the excitement has disappeared. Think about this. Anyone can work hard when they feel motivated. Anyone can wake up early after watching an inspiring video. Anyone can promise they'll change their life on January 1st. But what happens 2 weeks later? The motivation fades, the excitement disappears, comfort returns, and most people quietly surrender to their old habits. This is where powerful people become different. They don't rely on motivation, they rely on systems. Because motivation is emotional, discipline is intentional. Imagine two men who both dream of becoming successful. The first waits until he feels inspired. Some days he works, some days he doesn't. His progress depends entirely on his mood. The second man makes a decision. Every single day, regardless of how he feels, he shows up. Some days he performs brilliantly, other days he struggles, but he never breaks his commitment. 1 year later, the difference between them is impossible to ignore, not because one was smarter, but because one respected discipline more than comfort. Comfort is one of the greatest enemies of power. Comfort whispers, "You've done enough. You deserve a break. You can start tomorrow." Tomorrow becomes next week, or next week becomes next month. Before long, years have passed, and nothing has changed. Powerful people recognize these whispers for what they are: excuses wearing comfortable clothes. There is another reason discipline commands respect. It builds trust, not just with other people, but with yourself. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, your confidence grows. Every workout completed, every book finished, every distraction resisted, every difficult conversation handled with maturity. These moments seem small, but together they create an identity that quietly says, "I can depend on myself." That is real confidence, not loud confidence, not performative confidence, quiet confidence, the kind that doesn't need applause because it already knows what it's capable of. Think of a blacksmith forging a sword. The steel isn't shaped by one powerful strike, it's shaped by thousands of repeated blows. Your character is forged the same way, one disciplined decision at a time. Most people underestimate consistency because it looks ordinary. They chase dramatic transformations. They want overnight success. But nature teaches a different lesson. The tallest tree wasn't built in a day. The strongest mountain wasn't formed overnight. Greatness grows slowly, silently, patiently. Every day you choose discipline, you become slightly stronger than yesterday. The change is almost invisible. But months later, the person you once were becomes almost unrecognizable. Robert Greene reminds us that mastery requires embracing boredom, because eventually, every worthwhile pursuit becomes repetitive. Reading, training, practicing, improving. The average person quits when it stops being exciting. The powerful person continues because they understand something deeper. Repetition creates excellence. If you only act when you feel inspired, you will always be controlled by your emotions. But when discipline becomes your lifestyle, your emotions stop deciding your future. Imagine waking up each morning already knowing what needs to be done. There are no negotiation, no excuses, no endless debate inside your mind, just action. That kind of certainty creates enormous personal power. People notice it, they trust it, they respect it, because disciplined people become reliable, and reliability is increasingly rare in a world full of distractions. There is one final lesson about discipline that many overlook. It gives you freedom. At first, discipline feels restrictive. You wake up early, you avoid distractions, you delay pleasure. But over time, those small sacrifices create extraordinary freedom, financial freedom, emotional freedom, physical strength, mental clarity, the freedom to choose your own direction instead of reacting to life. Meanwhile, the person who constantly chooses comfort often loses that freedom. Comfort today becomes regret tomorrow. Discipline today becomes opportunity tomorrow. So ask yourself honestly, who is making your decisions, your long-term vision or your temporary feelings? Because every day those two voices compete for control. One promises immediate comfort. The other promises lasting growth. Only one leads to power. Remember this: discipline is not something you practice once in a while. It is a promise you make to yourself every single day. And every time you keep that promise, you become harder to distract, harder to manipulate, harder to defeat. Because true power isn't built in moments of inspiration. It is built in the quiet hours when nobody is watching and you choose to do the work anyway. In part 7, you'll discover the 7th hidden behavior, a mindset that instantly separates truly powerful people from those who spend their lives trying to impress everyone. Protect your energy. Not everyone deserves access to you. One of the biggest misconceptions about power is that it comes from having more people around you, more friends, more followers, more conversations, more attention. But the truth is often the opposite. Power grows when you learn to protect your energy instead of giving it away to everyone. Look around at the people who always seem exhausted. They're constantly involved in drama, always responding to unnecessary messages, always trying to fix everyone else's problems, always explaining themselves, always arguing online. At the end of the day, they wonder why they have no energy left to pursue their own dreams. The answer is simple. They've spent all of it on people and situations that never deserved it. Robert Greene teaches that your attention is one of your greatest assets. Where your attention goes, your life follows. If your attention is constantly stolen by negativity, your growth slows down. If your attention is invested in learning, building, and improving, your future changes. The difference is not talent. It's focus. Imagine carrying a bucket filled with water. Every unnecessary argument punches a small hole in that bucket. Every toxic relationship creates another. Every moment spent comparing yourself to others adds one more. Eventually, you arrive at your destination with almost nothing left, not because the journey was impossible, but because you leaked your energy along the way. Powerful people understand this. They don't waste emotional energy proving themselves to people who have already decided not to understand them. They don't chase endless debates. They don't react to every criticism. They ask a simple question before giving someone their time. Does this deserve my energy? Or, most of the time, the answer is no. There is a reason successful people guard their schedules so carefully. Every yes carries a hidden cost. When you say yes to meaningless distractions, you're saying no to your goals, no to your health, no to your family, no to your peace of mind. Time is limited. Energy is limited. Attention is limited. Spend them as if they were your most valuable possessions, because they are. Think about the sun. It doesn't shine brighter because everyone demands it. It rises according to its own purpose. Clouds may appear, storms may come, but the sun doesn't waste energy arguing with the weather. It simply continues shining. Your life should follow the same principle. People will criticize you. Some will misunderstand you. Others will judge you based on rumors rather than reality. If you try correcting every misunderstanding, you'll spend your entire life explaining instead of living. Not every opinion deserves a response. Not every insult deserves your attention. Silence is often a stronger answer than the perfect argument. There is another habit that quietly drains your energy: comparison. Social media has made comparison almost effortless. You see someone's success, someone else's luxury lifestyle, another person's achievements. Suddenly your own progress feels insignificant. But here's what most people never realize. You're comparing your everyday reality to someone else's carefully edited highlights. That comparison is unfair from the beginning. Robert Greene reminds us that envy clouds judgment. The moment you become obsessed with another person's path, you stop building your own. Powerful people admire excellence. They learn from it. But they never become prisoners of comparison. They understand that everyone's timeline is different. Some people bloom early, others bloom later. The only comparison that truly matters is this: are you becoming better than the person you were yesterday? If the answer is yes, you're already winning. Protecting your energy also means protecting your inner peace. Not every invitation deserves acceptance. Not every friendship deserves permanence. Not every opportunity deserves your attention. The ability to say no is one of the clearest signs of self-respect, because every time you say no to something that weakens you, you say yes to something that strengthens you. People may call you distant. They may say you've changed. They're right. Growth always changes people. The version of you that tolerated constant negativity cannot become the version capable of achieving extraordinary things. Sometimes people lose access to you, not because you became arrogant, but because you finally learned your worth. Remember this, your mind is like a garden. Whatever you allow inside will eventually grow. If you constantly plant fear, fear will grow. If you constantly plant distraction, distraction will grow. But if you plant discipline, focus, patience, and purpose, your life will begin producing results that once seemed impossible. So guard your energy carefully, because every great achievement begins with focused attention, and focused attention becomes impossible when your mind belongs to everyone except yourself. In the end, the most powerful people are not those with the most energy. They are the ones who refuse to waste it. In Part 8, we'll reveal the final hidden behavior, the one that ties all the others together and transforms temporary confidence into lasting power, followed by a powerful conclusion that will stay with your audience long after the video ends. Build yourself so completely that nothing external can break you. There is one final behavior that quietly connects every lesson you've heard today. It is the foundation beneath silence, the strength behind emotional control, the reason discipline becomes possible, the secret that allows you to walk away without bitterness. It is this. Build your identity from within, not from the outside world. Most people spend their entire lives constructing an identity based on things they cannot control. Their confidence depends on compliments. Their happiness depends on relationships. Their peace depends on circumstances. Their self-worth depends on success. And because all of those things can disappear, their confidence disappears with them. Robert Greene teaches that true power begins when your center of gravity moves inward, when your value is no longer determined by applause, when criticism no longer defines your future, when temporary failure no longer changes how you see yourself. Because if your identity depends on the world will control you. But if your identity comes from your principles, very little can shake you. Imagine a ship crossing the ocean. Storms are inevitable. Powerful waves crash against it. Strong winds push it off course, yet the ship survives because of one reason: its anchor is strong. Your values are your anchor. Without them, every opinion becomes a storm, every setback becomes a disaster, every rejection becomes proof that you're not enough. With them, you remain steady even when life becomes unpredictable. Think back to every behavior we've discussed today. Silence becomes easy when you don't need constant validation. Emotional control becomes possible when your peace matters more than winning arguments. Walking away becomes natural when you know your worth isn't tied to one person. Discipline becomes sustainable when your purpose is stronger than your feelings. Protecting your energy becomes simple when you understand your attention is priceless. Everything begins with identity, not behavior. Identity. Powerful people don't wake up every morning asking, "How can I impress others?" They ask, "How can I become better than I was yesterday?" That single shift changes everything. Because the first question creates anxiety. The second creates growth. There will always be people who misunderstand you. Some will judge your silence as weakness. Others will mistake your kindness for vulnerability. Some will criticize your ambition. Others will envy your progress. Let them. Their opinions belong to them. Your future belongs to you. One of the greatest tragedies in life is becoming a stranger to yourself while trying to be accepted by everyone else. Don't let that happen. You were not born to spend your life chasing approval. You were born to build character. Character survives when popularity disappears. Character remains when money is lost. Character continues when circumstances change. That is why history remembers people of principle, not people who tried to please everyone. Remember, diamonds are created under pressure, not comfort. Steel is forged through fire, not convenience. And powerful individuals are shaped by adversity, not ease. So the next time life becomes difficult, Don't immediately ask, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is this teaching me? Because every challenge carries a lesson. Every setback carries a hidden opportunity. Every disappointment carries the chance to become someone stronger. The strongest people you've ever admired were not born different. They simply refused to let hardship define them. Instead, they allowed hardship to develop them. Today you have a choice. You can continue living as someone who reacts to every opinion, who explains every decision, who chases every distraction, who depends on everyone else's approval. Or you can become the person whose silence commands respect, whose discipline inspires confidence, whose emotional control creates influence, whose standards protect their peace, whose actions speak louder than promises, and whose identity remains unshaken regardless of what happens around them. Real power is never loud. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't beg for recognition. It doesn't need to prove itself. It simply exists quietly, confidently, patiently, until the world has no choice but to notice. So beginning today, speak less, observe more, react slower, work harder, protect your peace, guard your energy, master your emotions, and never stop building the person you're capable of becoming, because one day people will look at your confidence and assume you were born that way. They'll never see the countless moments you chose discipline over comfort, silence over ego, growth over excuses, and purpose over distraction. But you'll know, and that quiet knowledge will become the greatest source of power you'll ever possess. The most powerful person in the room is rarely the loudest. It's the one who has already conquered themselves. If this message changed the way you think, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who's ready to take control of their life. Remember, true power isn't about controlling the world around you. It's about mastering the world within you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.